There is a particular kind of comfort that comes from believing a decision has already been made correctly. The numbers were run, the test drive happened, the paperwork was signed, and the car sitting in the driveway represented something more than transportation. It represented being early, being right, being on the correct side of a technological shift. Millions of Tesla owners have been living inside that comfort for years now. And in the first half of 2026, two developments arrived that quietly began pulling the ground out from under it. Not through scandal or recall or anything dramatic, but through something far more ordinary and far harder to argue with: chemistry. The first one has a name that sounds like it belongs on a high school science quiz rather than a headline: sodium ion. It does not sound expensive, it does not sound futuristic, and it does not sound like the kind of thing that reshapes a market worth hundreds of billions of dollars. That is exactly why most people have not been paying attention to it. Yet sodium-ion cells are already inside passenger cars this year, not as concepts or lab demonstrations, but as production vehicles heading toward customers. They are cheaper to manufacture than lithium cells, and the company building them happens to be the same company that supplies batteries to Tesla. The second development is stranger, and for anyone who has ever stood in a parking lot watching a charging percentage crawl upward, considerably harder to ignore. In April 2026, an aluminum-ion cell went from empty to completely full in 6 minutes. Not 6 minutes to reach 80%. Not 6 minutes under ideal laboratory conditions that would never survive contact with a real road. 6 minutes, empty to full, reported by a company with serious industrial partners standing behind it. That number is not a projection or a promise, and it deserves to be examined carefully rather than dismissed or oversold. What makes these two technologies worth an honest look is not that either one is going to appear inside a Tesla next Tuesday. Neither will. The relevance is more subtle and, for owners, more financially immediate than that. A car's value does not depend only on how well it performs. It depends on what else is available, what the alternatives cost, and what the market believes is coming next. Resale value is a story the market tells itself about the future, and both sodium-ion and aluminum-ion are actively rewriting that story right now, in real time, whether or not any individual owner is following along. The uncomfortable part is the timing. Anyone who bought a Tesla in the last 3 or 4 years bought into a specific proposition: superior battery technology, a charging network nobody could match, and a technological lead wide enough to justify the price. Much of that proposition still holds. The cars still work, the network still works, and the software still improves. What has changed is that the gap between Tesla's battery advantage and everyone else's is narrowing from 2 directions at once. One that is already commercially real, and one that is still climbing out of the laboratory, but climbing fast. So the question stops being whether the technology is impressive and starts being something more practical. What happens to the value of a used Model 3 when cheaper vehicles with better cold weather performance start arriving at dealerships? What happens to the perception of a 25-minute supercharger stop once 6-minute charging enters the public imagination as a reference point? Those two pressures operate on completely different timelines and completely different mechanisms, and understanding the difference between them is what separates an owner who can plan from an owner who simply reacts. That manufacturer is CATL, short for Contemporary Amperex Technology, and its scale is difficult to overstate. Roughly 38% of every electric vehicle battery sold globally comes out of its operations, which means more than 1 in 3 EVs on the road anywhere in the world runs on cells this single company produced. It is not one player among several. It is the center of gravity for the entire industry, the supplier whose decisions ripple outward into every automaker's product plan, whether those automakers like it or not. The detail that makes this directly relevant to American Tesla owners is the supply relationship. CATL supplies Tesla's factory in Shanghai. The batteries in a substantial number of Teslas were manufactured by this company. So when CATL makes a statement about where battery chemistry is heading, it is not an outside observer offering a prediction. It is the organization actually building the cells, describing the limits of the technology it builds, with more direct visibility into those limits than anyone else on the planet possesses. At the company's Tech Day in April 2026, its chief scientist stood up and said something that should have generated far more noise than it did. Lithium iron phosphate, the chemistry known as LFP, the workhorse behind most affordable electric vehicles, including a significant portion of Tesla's lineup, is nearing its theoretical energy density limit, not slowing down, not facing temporary manufacturing difficulties, approaching the ceiling that physics itself imposes on what that particular arrangement of materials can store. Translated out of engineering language, the meaning is blunt. The chemistry that carried the electric vehicle revolution through its most important decade is running out of room to improve. There will be refinements, packaging gains, incremental efficiency wins around the edges. What there will not be is another dramatic leap forward from LFP itself, because the material has nearly reached the maximum energy it is capable of holding. Every future gain has to come from somewhere else, and the person delivering that verdict runs the science at the company producing the cells. CATL's answer to its own diagnosis is a sodium-ion product line called Naxtra, and the timeline attached to it is specific rather than aspirational. Mass production is confirmed for the end of 2026. The first mass-produced sodium-ion passenger car, developed with Chinese automaker Changan, was already unveiled in February 2026 and is heading toward customers. This is not a research announcement or a concept vehicle circulating the auto show circuit. It is a product with a factory, a partner, a delivery schedule, and a buyer at the end of it. The performance figure attached to Naxtra is what turns the announcement from interesting into consequential. As the supply chain matures, CATL projects range of up to 600 kilometers, which works out to roughly 370 miles. That number sits comfortably inside the territory Tesla currently occupies with its own vehicles. The technology that was supposed to be too heavy, too weak, and too limited for automotive use is arriving with range figures that compete directly with what sits in showrooms today. And it arrives carrying 3 practical advantages that lithium cannot match. The first advantage announces itself on the coldest morning of the year. Anyone who has walked out to a Tesla in January and watched the estimated range drop by 20 or 25% before the wheels even moved has experienced a fundamental limitation of lithium chemistry. Cold slows the movement of ions inside the cell, resistance climbs, and the battery simply cannot deliver what it delivers in mild weather. Sodium handles temperature extremes considerably better. At both ends of the thermometer, retaining far more of its usable capacity when the air turns bitter and the pavement freezes. That difference is not a marginal detail for the American market. Enormous portions of the United States spend months every year in conditions where lithium chemistry underperforms, and drivers in those regions have simply learned to accept the seasonal penalty as the cost of driving electric. They plan around it, charge more often, and quietly recalculate their trips from November to March. A chemistry that removes a meaningful share of that penalty is not offering a specification improvement. It is offering the elimination of an annoyance that millions of people have been absorbing for years. The second advantage is safety, and here the evidence is regulatory rather than promotional. Sodium-ion cells carry a lower fire risk than their lithium counterparts, a consequence of how the chemistry behaves when something goes wrong inside the pack. China introduced a new electric vehicle safety standard, taking effect on July 1, 2026, and it is considerably stricter than what came before it. CATL's Naxtra became the first battery to pass that standard, which is a meaningful data point precisely because it was measured by someone other than the company selling the product. The third advantage is the one that eventually reaches every owner's bank account, and it is the simplest of the three. Cheaper raw materials, combined with a supply chain that does not run through geopolitical bottlenecks, produce cells that cost less to build. Cells that cost less to build produce cars that cost less to sell. Cars that cost less to sell create competition at price points where competition did not previously exist, and that competition does not stay politely confined to the new car market. It works its way into the used market, where a great many Teslas currently sit. The scale of that pressure depends entirely on how much of the market sodium eventually takes, and CATL's own founder has offered a number. He believes sodium could eventually replace as much as half of the lithium iron phosphate market. That statement deserves to be read carefully because of who is making it. The person who built the largest battery company in the world, whose business was constructed on lithium, is publicly stating that a competing chemistry could consume half the segment his company dominates. Companies do not usually forecast the erosion of their own product lines unless they have already made peace with it, and CATL clearly has. The forecast is less a warning than a description of a transition already underway, with factories, partners, and delivery dates attached. All of this is happening on a timeline measured in months rather than decades, which makes it the immediate half of the story. The other half is stranger, further away, and considerably harder to look at without either overreacting or dismissing it entirely. Something needs to be established before anyone gets carried away, because this particular technology attracts more exaggeration than almost any other topic in the battery world. No automaker has announced aluminum-ion batteries in a production vehicle. Not Tesla, not Elon Musk, not any major manufacturer anywhere. Anyone claiming otherwise is either guessing, misreading a press release, or deliberately selling something. The honest position is that aluminum-ion is not in any car, is not scheduled to be in any car, and may never reach a car at all. What is real is a company called Graphene Manufacturing Group, based in Brisbane, Australia, developing a graphene aluminum-ion cell alongside the University of Queensland and Rio Tinto, one of the largest mining operations on the planet. That combination of an academic research partner and an industrial materials giant is not the profile of a company chasing headlines. Sitting on its board is Bob Gallion, formerly the Chief Technology Officer of CATL, the same CATL that dominates global battery production. The person who helped build the largest battery company on Earth is now working on aluminum. The numbers reported on April 15, 2026, are what make the project difficult to wave away. The company's cells had reached 26 watt-hours per kilogram in December 2025. 4 months later, that figure stood at 49 watt-hours per kilogram. Energy density essentially doubled in a third of a year, which is an unusual rate of improvement in a field where progress typically arrives in single-digit percentages. When those cells were charged slowly over the course of an hour, they reached 101 watt-hours per kilogram. Then there is the figure everyone latches onto. Charged at the target fast charge rate, the cells went from empty to full in 6 minutes. It is worth sitting with that number rather than nodding past it, because 6 minutes is genuinely difficult to absorb. 6 minutes is shorter than the wait at a busy gas station on a Friday afternoon. It is shorter than a mediocre song on the radio. It is the difference between charging being an event a driver plans around and charging being something that simply happens while a driver stands there. Gallion has pointed out what that would mean for engineers, and his observation is more interesting than the charging time itself. Electric vehicles currently carry enormous battery packs, partly to compensate for how long charging takes. A driver needs range because stopping is expensive in time. Remove that expense and the entire design logic inverts. There is no reason for a 100 kilowatt-hour pack if refilling takes 6 minutes. Cars could be built around rapid turnover instead of maximum capacity, which means smaller, lighter, and considerably cheaper vehicles. The honest caveat is that this technology sits at what engineers call Battery Technology Readiness Level 4. It works in a laboratory and is being prepared for testing with actual customers. The published roadmap calls for customer testing during 2026 and small commercial production in 2027. And timelines like that slip routinely, often for reasons nobody sees coming until full production begins. What does not slip is the structural argument underneath it. Aluminum foil on both electrodes, no lithium, no copper. The most abundant metal in the Earth's crust, plentiful within the United States, and entirely free of the supply chains running through a single country. All of which eventually arrives at the only question that matters to someone holding keys. What happens to the car already sitting in the garage? The place to start is with numbers rather than theory. A Model 3 purchased new for around $47,000 in 2022 is worth somewhere between the mid-teens and the mid-20,000s today, depending on condition and mileage. That represents roughly 40 to 55% of the purchase price evaporating in 4 years, which is steep depreciation by any standard, and it happened before either of these chemistries reached the market. Several forces produced that decline, and they are worth separating. Tesla's own aggressive price cuts on new vehicles pulled the entire used market downward, because nobody pays used prices that approach new ones. The federal EV tax credit disappearing at the end of 2025 removed a subsidy that had been quietly propping up demand. And beneath both of those, the market simply figured out that battery technology was not standing still. And it priced that realization into every used electric vehicle on every lot in the country. Sodium-ion adds a new kind of downward pressure on top of that, and it is the concrete kind. Vehicles that are cheaper to build, better in cold weather, and safer on paper begin arriving at price points below a new Tesla. That is direct competition for a used Model 3 sitting at $22,000, because a buyer weighing those options now has a genuine alternative that did not exist before. This pressure is not theoretical, and it is not distant. It shows up in the market roughly 12 to 24 months from now. Aluminum ion applies an entirely different kind of pressure, and it works on perception rather than price. The supercharger network remains one of Tesla's strongest and most legitimate arguments. Fast, reliable, and genuinely everywhere. But the moment 6-minute charging becomes the reference point in the public imagination, even while it remains 2 or 3 years from any showroom, a 25-minute stop at a supercharger begins to feel different. It stops feeling like the future and starts feeling like a workaround. And that shift affects resale value before the technology itself ever arrives. Which leaves 3 practical positions, depending on where an owner stands. Anyone considering selling or trading in should recognize that the window before sodium-ion applies serious downward pressure on used EV prices is probably 2026. And windows like that do not stay open indefinitely. Anyone buying used should understand exactly what they are getting. A solid car, a real charging network, improving software, a genuine ecosystem, while also understanding that the premium over a comparable gasoline vehicle now has to account for cheaper competitors with newer chemistry entering the market.